So as well as paying tribute to Guy's work and the influence that he's given so many, and not only Bristol, but through Britain, as we're going to see, we're going to look at the influence here through academia and also in the community. What do we do with all that learning, and how can we make it better? And also the next generation. Don't forget, we're here for our students as well. I'm delighted that they will be here to attend and also take part in one of our panels. So we're going to have short bursts of this today, looking back through those three areas, ABC, like the Jackson 5 as well, activism, Bristol Bus Boycott, and community learning. For those that made it clear that they would have loved to have been there, what I thought I'd do, instead of giving another lowdown on Guy's life, I'm going to recreate the speech that I gave that day in Bristol Bregan. It was a wonderful occasion. There's no better joyous time than to see our students receive that, and also being the recipient of an honorary degree. It's so proud there and delighted. My mum's made it down from London. She was there that day for mine and is here today as well. So here we go. University of West of England Bristol awards its honorary degrees to each year, recognising those who have had an illustrious career or have made a significant impact on the lives of others, all provided inspiration to our graduates and current students at the university. We choose people who our graduates can admire, who share the values of UWE Bristol. They are people whose impressive careers and achievements to date will leave a mark, influencing change for the better in their fields and improving the lives of others. The famed Windrush generation arrived in Britain in 1948. They were told the streets were paved with gold, but instead faced the coldness and signs of no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. Today, I'm honoured as a proud son of the Windrush generation, an educator at UWE Bristol, to salute Guy Bailey and the brave pioneers who changed the face of a nation today. Born in 1946, at 16 years of age, Guy Bailey was sent to England from St. Anne's, Jamaica, in 1961. His father had hoped he'd receive a better education so that he'd become a solicitor, teacher, or a doctor. Guy settled in Bristol with his aunt and eldest brother and was amazed at the sight of British double-deckers buses. The Bristol Bus Boycott organiser, Paul Stevenson, contacted Bristol Alumnus and arranged an appointment for Guy to have an interview as a bus conductor. When Guy arrived, the receptionist looked puzzled. Guy heard her tell the manager that his 2 o'clock appointment was here, but he's black. The manager said, "Tell him there are no vacancies here and we don't employ blacks." Guy had never experienced racism before, and Paul Stevenson gathered the Bristol West Indies Parents and Friends Association's core members, who are now legends: Owen Henry, Roy Hackett, Audley Evans, and Prince Brown. They organised the Bristol Bus Boycott in April 1963. They marched against racist employment practices supported by Bristol's black community, students and staff of the University of Bristol, and local Bristolians. Famed West Indian cricketer and diplomat Sir Leary Constantine and union leader Bill Morris backed the campaign. The activists were successful, ending the same day that Dr. King delivered his I Have a Dream speech on 28th of August 1963. Influenced by the Bristol Boycott campaigners, Tony Penn joined Harold Wilson's government, who introduced the 1965 Race Relations Act. Today, this has evolved into the 2010 UK Equalities Act, giving civil rights across gender, LGBTQ+, religion, age, disability, and maternity rights. After the Bristol Bus Boycott, Guy became an engineer for British Aerospace, working on the building of Concorde, which is now just up the road. Guy is an excellent cricketer and co-founded the Bristol West Indian Cricket Club, where he amassed many runs and trophies. In 1964, Guy and others established a Rose Green Sports and Leisure Centre, which is still an important community hub in Bristol. In the late 1970s, Guy became the first black education welfare officer and one of the first black governors in Bristol, as well as being a youth worker at the Mill, a youth centre in Easton, helping the lives of many of our young people. In 1987, Guy gained his degree here at Bristol Polytechnic, now of course University of West of England, Bristol, with a degree in social work. Following the advice of his tutor, he co-founded United Housing Association, which began by providing accommodation for black elders with care staff before becoming a social housing landlord in the St Paul's and Eastern areas. Now renamed as Brighter Places, it provides affordable homes for thousands. In 2006, he formed a travel agency for community members to fly to the Caribbean. With his passion for the community still burning, he started Signposts and Right Direction as an advice centre supporting young men in prison. So, that was the biography of Guy Bailey. That's what I read, and then I made way for the Vice-Chancellor. I'm going to do the same again today. Please, can you welcome the Vice-Chancellor of University of England, Bristol, Sir Stephen West.
Thank you, Roger, and a very warm welcome to the university if you've not been here before. And we're here to celebrate one man, and he sat down here proudly displaying his OBE, but also in front of us, proudly wearing, oh it was a minute ago, proudly wearing the university's robes. And I'm just going to say a few words about why would the university be honoured to invite him to become a doctor of the university. And the answer is very simple. You've heard the biography, but when you know the man and his passion for bringing communities together and fighting for what is right, it's obvious that we as a university would want to come alongside and celebrate that. And I talked to some of his tutors who were going to be here this evening, but unfortunately couldn't. One of them was a colleague of mine for many years, Arthur Keefe, who was in social sciences at the Polytechnic and was a social worker. And he remembers very passionately the work that you did in our local communities, the insight you had, but also the ability to make change happen and to improve the lives of the communities that we all serve. And that's so central to what the university believes in. We are a university that is of the city, for the city, and with the city. We are your university, and we're very proud of that. But that's a very precious place to occupy, because with that comes, I think, responsibility and accountabilities. And we're going through quite a lot of change at the university. And I think when I reflect back on the struggles and the work that you had to do, and I reflect on where are we now, it's disappointing. We still have so much work to do to really become an inclusive environment for staff and students at the university, and we've just launched our anti-racist strategy. And it's not just words on a page, it is about cultural change. And I know the work that you did was about trying to change culture and how hard that is. So as a role model, we look to you as a university, and we want to learn from you as a university. So awarding you an honorary degree, which is the highest award we can give as a university, frankly was a very easy decision. And we were honoured and delighted when you accepted. And to share the day with you and your family was inspiring. I have to say, very emotional. It's not often that I will well up in the middle of a degree ceremony, but I have to say, I did. Because you are an inspiration, and the work that you did is something that we need to learn from and cultivate within all of our communities. So thank you for accepting, that's the first thing, but thank you for being here tonight and to celebrate your work. As a university, we are of the community, and we need to learn from you all, and we look to you to help us make sure that we continue to work as a university on the things that matter to communities. We're here to create the future. The power of a university is that we work with talent from wherever that talent comes from, and we try to ensure that we create a better future for those individuals, but also for the communities that they're in. And we can only do that if we're working with you all, and that we're making sure we're alive to what you're telling us, and we're making sure that as our students go through their education, wherever that might be, and we have students from 17 all the way through, I think our oldest graduate was in his 80s, 90s. So it is lifelong learning, and everyone in here is a lifelong learner, whether you like it or not, because the world changes so fast. I think we've got a long distance to go in terms of how we as a community come together, how we crush racism within our communities and within our organisations, and that is a journey we're on. We'll make mistakes, but we'll learn together and we'll get it right for future generations. And people like me in leadership positions and people like you have a responsibility to create a better world for the generations that follow us. And you started that movement. So thank you very much, and thank you for honouring us by accepting an honorary degree. It meant a huge amount. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And before we ask Guy to come up and take your applause, he's not going to speak tonight unless he wants to. So we pre-prepared an interview before, which we played at Bristol Beacon as well. So we're going to show that in it. He'll talk about the power of education, that lifelong learning, and his drive that's there. You're back here at University West of England. It was the Polytechnic back then. Can you tell us about your social services degree and taking it here?
I was always interested in having a profession, and I thought the only way to do that was to go through the education system. If you know Jamaicans in general, you will understand that education is the utmost and the highest standard for any young person. Education was the way forward.
And how important was getting your first degree in your career as a social worker, as a community leader? How important was the degree in your success?
I think it sets an example for what is to come, and we must always support each other.
What's your hopes that young people and our graduates today will be taken forward into the world once they've received their honours?
For anyone to receive an honorary degree, it takes hard work, and you must always remember that you have others coming after you who need the same sort of example to be continued. So I think an honorary degree will mark the beginning of something fantastic for younger people.
And finally, any advice to the graduates that are going to be watching this?
What I would say to graduates is that don't be afraid, because success is a journey and not a destination. So they need to continue to work, although they got the chance and the privilege to move forward and go ahead.
On behalf of University West of England, Bristol, we're delighted that you're able to accept the honorary doctorate.
I feel very honoured, and I'm very willing to accept the degree that is being sorted.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding And welcome Dr Guy Bailey to the stage. Thanks so much for that one honourable moment, and yeah, I have to say I felt exactly the same when Guy was moving across the stage, and at Bristol Beacon I was not a man moved much to tears, as Stacey will tell you often, but I did catch in my throat that we managed to honour those campaigners. Talked about the ABC. A for activism. Let's go straight to that next. And we'll have Julz and the Bristol Bus Boycott, and we'll have community learning and lots of panel there. But let's talk about activism role, and what does that mean, and how can we take that into there? Talked about Guy's degree, not at length, but you know what he did with it, what counts. How do you take that learning into United Housing Association, as I said, with brighter futures as well. But Guy was a man of many talents, but also many influences. We were delighted a couple of years, 18 months back, to work with BBC's One Show as well, who tracked down our story. So our many storytellers that are here, we keep there, and they tracked us down. And one of Bristol's new finest sons, who knew nothing, who was schooled here in Bristol. That's the key thing. His auntie, as you're about to see, is a prominent activist. Didn't know about it. So this is why we need it in our schools and on our curriculums. This is where this all goes into. What is the value of community learning? So I'm asked three of our colleagues, Professor Shaun, Malcolm Richards, and Amy Saleh, who's used Princess and the Hustler, again that theme, to talk about that with me. So, what's the value of community learning? Shaun, I'm going to start with you, as many familiar faces in here have inspired me and helped me in my career as well. You were a shining light from this university here. How have you used community learning in your anthropology work, in your photography, and now becoming a professor? Now, how important has that academia play to you?
I just want to start by saying congratulations to Dr Guy Bailey OBE. An honour and a pleasure to be in the same room with you, and for you to be honoured by the university that I work for. So thank you very much for all the work you've done, and it humbles me to be here today. So thank you. I started working here in 2002. Originally is 1999. I worked here for a year, then I left, and then came back in 2002. So 22 years. And when I started working here, it was the height of kind of the widening participation era in terms of that policy from government working here. And it wasn't actually part of my job description, but I made it part of my job description to do that type of work. So I did a lot of work working with schools, St. George School back then, and Fairfield School, and lots of schools, and also working in Bath as well, where I'm originally from. And I think it's always been my notion that universities are not separate from communities, they're also part of communities, and the learning and all the skills that happen in a university don't only preside within these walls, And also the important thing is that knowledge and skills don't only exist in universities, they also exist outside of universities. So it's not about the walls of the university, it's much more of a culture. So I've always been interested in building those connections. More recently, a lot of my works with Fairfield House in Bath, which is where Emperor Haile Selassie lived during Mussolini's invasion, and he left Fairfield House for the older people, and it's being used by Bath Ethnic Minority Senior Citizens Association, and it's kind of a hub of a lot of the kind of black community in Bath. So a lot of my work has been revolved around that in more recent years, but as I say, more previous to that, yeah, lots of work in kind of schools, developing a project at the moment with Full Circle in St Paul's, Kumba Centre, where I started working when I lived in Bristol. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I 22 years, my brain goes foggy, but lots of community projects, and particularly when working with Rob Mitchell, we used to run Firstborn Creatives. So a lot of my research work was also my practice, and so, you know, UWE were always involved. We the Curious, and yeah, just it's hard to say, but yes, so many different projects.
And tell us a little bit
because
more
I think
about
it's important for the university to be visible in spaces and not separate from.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit more about, because that's the bits where you've impacted on mine and many others, along with Dr. Edson Burton, who can't make it tonight. Tell us a bit more about the Firstborn project and that engaging with the community.
Yeah, Firstborn. So Firstborn was a production company, like I say, founded by myself and Rob Mitchell in 1999. And we had two tracks, really. One was about media education, and working with young people in media literacy. You know, if they became media producers and directors, that's great. But actually, it was about empowering them with the tools of engagement. And this is the years before digital cameras and Facebook, you know. But we just felt it was really important for young people to, get those skills in terms of media. So we ran a summer school that was partnered with Full Circle in St Paul's and also Kumba Centre. We ran a summer school called Channel Zero in Easton and St Paul's, and they made dramas and documentaries. And the crucial thing about those summer schools that we ran was it was about who was in the room, the audience. It wasn't just media for media's sake. In the room we had teachers and counsellors, police, and all kinds of people in the room, parents crucially. So they were talking about the issues and the subject matter that was made in those programs, and those kind of things are, really, really crucial. And I think one of my early touchstones that's related to Guy Bailey and the Bus Boycott in terms of my connection with the university was an academic called Professor Madge Dresser, who used to be an academic here. I don't take it for granted being sat here because this wasn't my destiny. I left school with very poor GCSEs. I mean, I left school at 15, went back to just sit my exams and leave again. So being at university wasn't a part of the equation, let alone working in a university and having this title in front of my name. So I've never taken that for granted. So for me, it was kind of porous in terms of, community. But getting back to Madge Dresser, when I left school, I did two really rough full-time jobs. One was working in a very racist car panel beating company, knocking dents out of cars, and this was in 1989 or something. Really racist environment. I left there and then went stripping paint off furniture, and I thought there's got to be more to life. And I ended up going to college, Ashley Down College is it then, so I was travelling from Bath to go there, and that's why I first met Madge Dresser. So I was about 18 then, and she came into the room. She was giving out flyers for a Benjamin Zephaniah kind of event that was happening. And she said, "Oh, are you interested in going?" I was like, yeah, I'm interested. She literally came back the next week, picked me up from class and took me there. She didn't know me from Adam, and I wasn't even a university student. I was a student of what is now Bristol College. And then she told me, she's a history lecturer at University West of England, etc., etc. And it was her booklet, Black and White on the Buses, where I first heard and read about Guy Bailey, the Bus Boycott, and this is in the early 90s, And Madge Dresser, I got to give her flowers because she was the first person to talk about Colston, first person to talk about bus boycott and put that in public consciousness, really. So she is one of my early examples of how academics don't just reside in what we call this ivory towers. They're out there making connections. And so she was probably the first one that I met, actually.
Excellent. So I want to reflect on a couple of things. I'm going to come to Amy next, Malcolm last, and a couple of those points about the mentors, the role of community buildings as well. Holston Drive in St. Paul's, it was, I was unemployed, way back when, and those, just community learning is just about being taught by your peers, seeing a black teacher for the first time. I was 27. I was before I saw a black teacher. Didn't know that was a thing. I became a lecturer at 50. So these things are reflected on that we need to share and also expand as well, because we don't play enough on that. Going from our most experienced to our rookie. And
if I could use it,
I still feel like I'm rookie.
And our numbers, but that's only just within you, not in terms of your work and life as before you've got into you. So how in terms of community learning, how have you how has that influenced you, and how have you again used and utilised that within your work and teaching?
I'm trying to think where to start. I think, so I didn't grow up in Bristol. And to be honest, I hadn't even been to the Southwest before my now husband said, I live in Bristol, come check it out. I was like, oh, Southwest, okay. I'd heard of it on like Skins, and that was it. That was it. So when I landed, heavily pregnant at the time, I felt completely lost. I had no idea how to feel integrated in a new place, somebody that's grown up in Slough and not really left London much. It was a bit bewildering, and it took quite a long time. And I noticed as well, if I did go to a few events, I found that people that had kind of grown up and lived in Bristol were very, very strong about their Bristolian identity. And it's like, oh, who are you if you're not like born and bred in Bristol? So it's taken quite a long time, but through education, it's probably been the biggest way in, because if you work in schools, you meet teachers, you get into like teacher networks and things like that. So that was probably one of the ways in. And then it's probably the Lit Legacies project that I started last year with 2 teachers who I love. So we've got Kashan Campbell at Fairfield. And then we've got Tanisha Hicks-Bereford, who's at Bristol Cathedral Choir School. So those are the 2 Bristol-based teachers, and then a teacher from Surrey. And that project was a really good opportunity for us to just vibe together. That the first time we met, Malcolm was with us as well, and it was the first time in any of our careers as teachers and educators where we'd all been in the room with just black teachers to create something. It was like, it was amazing. We'll never forget that day. And that's when Lit Legacies started. And the purpose of Lit Legacies was to provide ways in to teaching Black British literature, which got put onto GCSE curriculums from about 2020, 2021, and then onwards. They've been adding more to it in the wake of the Black Lives Matter resurgence. It's not to say that teachers may not have been teaching it to younger year groups before, but generally in GCSE there were no black writers there. And research from there showed that teachers didn't feel very confident to teach it. So that shows you that at years 7, 8 and 9, they probably weren't teaching it there either. So Lit Legacies, we got together to create a scheme of work, and the play that we chose to go for was Princess and the Hustler, which is obviously set against the Bristol Bus Boycott and features a 10-year-old black girl called Phyllis. And just to see a play which has a character that's a black girl as well, which is just not what you usually get as an English teacher or having been a student in school as well. So I think, connection through teachers and the project was definitely a way into feeling integrated and to learning from community in Bristol.
Excellent. Malcolm is the other thorn on the other side of the rose.
Bro, what are you doing? I appreciate you, but come on.
It was too obvious to especially blame Amy's wonderful top that reminded me of flowers. But you can be a bit spiky, as we know. You and community learning and your wonderful education project. We've, again, a number of you in the room will be aware of. Tell the audience more about it and how that's influencing you, and how it keeps giving you back, and how you keep giving back too.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity to be here. Hi everybody, welcome. Bless love, Dr. Guy. What I almost want to start with is kind of reaching back to traditions of old, traditions of community. So often when I'm on a panel and people hit, like Shaun was saying about putting the job title and the professors and the hierarchies of universities first, I'm always a bit wary of that. And so I've always said that I'm a graduate of the African Caribbean Supplementary School Movement in Britain, Dimbale Education Centre and Josina Mackell Supplementary School, both of which are in Hackney in London. So that's the space that I graduated from. And it's really, really, really important for me to say that. And also, Dr. Guy, pass on blessed love from a number of different communities across the country, including Miss Camille London-Mayo in Leicester, including Anita Richards, who's in Buckinghamshire, and that's my mum, everybody. But, I had to get her in here. And many, many others from across teaching communities in the UK who, once they found out that we were going to be on this panel and that this award was given and being celebrated, they wanted to acknowledge it. And that really speaks to, or begins to give a hint at, the global reach of you. And so I think we need to acknowledge the global reach of what we're talking about here. And that idea of global reach is really important. Roger, you really lovingly shared so many examples of Dr. Guy and others being first from the age of 16, first in the door. And when I told my mum that I was bring my mum into my things, innit? When I told my mum that I was going to be on the panel, we had this kind of rich conversation. My mum was a school teacher. I was a school teacher. As already been said, as the doctor said, education has been so vitally important to my life experience, it's unbelievable. And like Shaun, like Amy, I absolutely understand that I'm sitting in a space right now with good people, doctors, professors, sirs, and regular folk who almost certainly in their educational experiences, certainly if they took place in the UK, they never saw a teacher that looked like me. You never had me in your classroom. You never even got to glimpse what this could be. So the experience that Amy spoke about, we hadn't experienced it, but similarly, I'm sure you haven't experienced us as teachers and practitioners in your classrooms. We literally don't exist. We are unicorns. And it's really important to say that. So when we're here to celebrate life works of someone who, just from the biog you offered, was always first, it seems like it's a rarefied thing. But I think anyone who's been involved in any kind of community education project, regardless of who your community is, you're always going to engage with either a practitioner or, importantly, a child or young person who is first. We all are capable of being first. I think the key thing here is, do we create the environments, whether we're school teachers, whether we're parents and carers, whether we're part of communities, where we can be first? Certainly in the university, and I guess the Professor Sir Steve was talking about in terms of cultural change, we're talking about 1963. We've all got living memories of much of the things, much of the problems, much of the challenges that we're talking about. We recognise they happen here and now. Our community knowledge is so rich and so valuable, it's unbelievable. There are no new stories to be told. So actually, I guess I would as much talk about community learning and community education, offer a plea to us, which is how can we create environments where we can be the first, maybe the first in our department, to make the challenge about improper behaviour, make the challenge about problematic material on the course, make the challenge about why isn't Lit Legacies in our curriculums, make the challenge why I Am Judah is not a film that we're showing in our spaces, and so on and so forth. There is a hopeful note to what I'm saying. Whenever you speak to students around this campus, sorry, I was waving at a student. Whenever you speak to students around the campus, whether you speak to young people in communities, even though we are fully aware of lots of that heavy weight that follows lots of the themes that we're talking about, that heavy weight that I guess, even when we're illuminating the life works of our doctor, our young people have hope. They believe that transformation is possible. They believe that they can be first to transform the spaces that they're in. I think we good people of a more mature age just sometimes need to follow their leads in the same way everyone followed the doctor's lead when he was 16.
Excellent. So from our panel, before I bring that to a close, we can get to our next one. Shaun talked about mentors, community buildings, gave tribute to Maj Dresser. I'm also going to give tribute to Marinique, who's Gournay, now at the University of Bristol, who's worked closely with us when she was here, when we were at GMA as well. So that went back into Firstborn. Amy come in as a from out the sticks, I'm going to say, from Slough, a London boy, still with straw there to between her mouth to Bristol, but and finding that environment, finding friendship, finding other black, and again, I think we all touched upon that. It's rare and within that. And Malcolm talked about kind of being the first, and that being a graduate of the supplementary system. If you haven't seen Steve McQueen's Education as part of Black History Month, then do watch it. It talks about that story and the narrative and Guy's global reach. Final comments to the panel before we.
I think the thing I just want to mention is even not taking this event for granted and how historic it is. Even, like I say, when I started working here in 2002. I was absolutely the only black academic in my faculty, as it was then. And the amount of black staff across the whole university, do you know what I mean? You could probably count on one hand, sort of thing. And things have changed, and it's good to acknowledge that. So even having, an all-black panel, 2 RAS as well, organised by your good self, celebrating the good doctor. Do you know what I mean? That's a historic thing. And actually, at this day and age, 2024, it shouldn't be a historic thing. We shouldn't have to be the first all the time in 2024. But actually, we are where we are, and it is a historic occasion in terms of just that representation. So I want to acknowledge that and thank you to you for bringing us together. Because also, it's really interesting to hear you talk at the beginning, because graduations are a certain ceremony, and but not everyone can be invited. So you even organising this for other people to be able to come to it, and more members of the community. Do you know what I mean? That's a brilliant example of bridging this thing between universities and communities and exclusivity and access. So so just want to acknowledge where we are and the significance of it. So thank you for that.
And thank you to our panellists, Malcolm Richards, Shaun Sobers, and Amy Saleh. Thank you. So Xavier, I'm going to start with you. You've heard what we've had so far. How important is this in terms of your relation to you, but also you and in terms of your journey? I've been, somebody I've responded to and worked with in terms of our community aid. But how is it important to you personally in terms of your journey and your studies?
Thanks, Roger. I'm going to follow in the footsteps of some of our mentors and So a big thank you to Dr. Guy for being such an inspiration, and hearing your story again this evening. It's an honour to share a platform with you. So thank you. And I mentioned mentoring there, and that's something I'm really passionate about. Is looking around this room, there's a lot of people who've mentored me on my journey here at the university. I started as a student here 9 years ago, so I arrived from London September 2015. I was a law student. I progressed through the degree and just grasped every opportunity that I saw coming my way. And by the end of my time as a student here, this building was built, and I was in this building, and the option to return and take up a position as an assistant support lecturer upstairs on the 4th floor came up, and I again jumped at that. So I transitioned from my lecturers being my colleagues within about 6 months of graduation, which was quite a unique experience. During that time, I've kind of made, I think it was Shaun who mentioned this, making racial justice a focus, even though it's not really part of your job or role, and you're doing really, really vital work that's needed in an environment like this, often without proper formal recognition, remuneration. It's because you're passionate and you see an issue that really needs resolving. But I wouldn't be able to have done that without the likes of Shaun, Emmanuel, and Dr. Roger, who've kind of helped guide me on that journey. And there's been times where it's been a real challenge. I guess for me, what I've tried to do while being on my own journey is help open doors for other people to be on that journey too. And when I progressed, left the law school and moved into a role on a green skills program, I was one of the mentor and cohort managers. So again, and we can talk maybe a bit more about that, because people like Nisha, who's, I must give a shout out to Roger, who was also a big part of that program, played an important role of fusing kind of student experiences with people out in the community, and with an emphasis on racial justice, climate justice. That was quite a unique experience too.
So again, we've got lots of different these strands that have pulled through Xavier's prism, his personal experience, some rough times in there as well, but that widening out and opening the doors for others. And so you both are starting this journey. I allowed Xavier to walk you through that, but we're doing this all for you.
Thank you.
How is it being here today in terms of what you're listening, in terms of the various backgrounds that you come from, and that feeling of the sea of community that we talked today, but also touched upon the activism, and hopefully you've seen a few new things from your alumni of the past. Well, I've just showed them the film, but also from the Bristol Bus Boycott as well.
Yeah, thank you. Before I say anything, I just want to appreciate Dr. Guy. Thank you very much for making the UK and Bristol a place for everybody. When I first moved into UK, I was lost. Anyway, I'm Kolawole Olure. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm the student union president. When I first came into the UK, and it was kind of strange, and not seeing somebody like me make me feel somehow. It was first experience. Back home, everybody is like me, so the same food, the same everything. So coming here, it was quite difficult. So my first step into the university, I saw pictures in Block D, and I saw black people, I saw people of color, and that gave me courage. That gave me okay, there are people like me who have done something exceptionally well. So that gave me a welcoming ground, okay, I can actually be an inspiration for others. And that's why I'm saying thank you to Dr. Bailey, because your work is inspirational for every one of us. And yeah.
Hi everyone. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It's good to know and it's good to meet with wonderful people. So when I talk about myself, I'm from Pakistan, and the first survival come from my home, being surviving as a woman. In a Pakistan, there is also the comparison between the men and women. Women don't have that much right like men have. So yes, from my the surviving start from my home. So I was the first female who come to the UK for higher education. So it was one of the big achievement. And also in Pakistan, I worked as a first female Secretary General of a cotton association, which was established in 1958. So it's an honor for me as well. And when I came here, I worked as a clinical auditor with Mandipil Medical Group. So it was a job, office job. And I was not satisfied. I don't know, I don't feel happy at that moment. I was doing a good job, but I was not happy. And once I got sick and I was hospitalized, then I met the different nurses were here, and in the night, the nurse who taking care of me was a black woman, and in the next day, the nurse who were taking care of me was a white woman. Then I was I think that then I realized where is the difference now? The black woman, I'm an Asian person, the black woman is taking care of myself, the white person is taking care of myself. So where is the difference now? We all are human beings, right? They are doing their job, they are with responsibility, without discrimination, without saying I'm an Asian, I'm from different background, from different culture. Then why we discriminate the other person? So the thing is that whatever we give our community, it returns to us. So the thing is that try always to give your best, because I have lots of class fellows as well, and I don't know why people feel more connected with me, and they start sharing their stories, their life stories. And one of my black friend, he was saying that I feel discriminated here. I don't want to any child here, because he faced the same thing that I am facing now. So it was are we really a human being? If the other person feel not safe in our existence, in our presence, then why we are here? So our first responsibility is that to treat everybody as a human being,
Okay.
rather than their color, their culture. Yeah, so that's a big thing for me, and that's why I got elected for in the student union as a vice president for community and welfare. That was my first motive to to stand for the election.
Okay, I just want to ask you both briefly. I'm going to have to close this short because we are short of time. But how is it viewed, you going to university in respective by your community in Pakistan, in Nigeria? How is it, how is it seen that going to UWE Bristol to university? How is that seen by your community?
Okay, I would like to start with that. So December, I went back home to Nigeria. So I have an NGO, and one thing is, Dr. Bailey did say, is education. As a Nigerian, education is the key to everything, and without education, I wouldn't be here anyway. So I had to go back to preach the gospel of education to my fellow Nigerians. And when I got home, I never knew, everybody was talking about me.
Right.
Everybody, my alma mater, my secondary school, which is an high school year, my university, they were all proud of me, oh, you've made us proud. So it goes a long way. So it's not just about here alone, even back home. It means a lot. So, yes.
Great, thank you. And
thank you.
Yeah, the same thing, family is proud of us because we are here. And it's also the big responsibility as well, what we are facing here, discrimination, we can't tell our family.
right.
So that's the big thing. We have both responsibility and the survival at the same time. So I'm trying to survive as well, and trying to fulfill my responsibilities.
Sure. And final word, Xavier, I know you celebrated your birthday with your father this weekend. How does, having again met him, and how proud he is of you and your achievements, what does that mean for you in dear old London town?
Yeah, incredibly proud. I think for anyone to get through a degree, and especially now with the additional pressures of being at university
and cost
of being here, I think it's inspiring for people to that's an inspiring achievement that we shouldn't kind of undermine at all. I think what we also need to bear in mind, and the previous panel made this point about community and lifelong learning, and universities being anchor institutions for regions, so people can come in and out who aren't necessarily students, and we value different types of knowledge, so we don't get on the ivory tower and think about and preach from the kind of top of the staircase down on people. We invite people in to find out what's important and valuable, and what can we learn, what lessons can we learn. And I think I've spoken to you, Roger, before about the fact that you hadn't been to university and yet you end up teaching here, and you have important stories to tell, and that influences students. I think while we have, for people who are students here, it's really important that they understand what's the history of Bristol when they arrive here. I think it's really, really important and should be part of everyone's curriculum. What's going on, where, as they're navigating the sea, what's happening outside. But thinking of, with the Green Skills Programme, we interacted with people who are from the shadows of the university buildings and campuses who they've never been on campus before, and I think that's wrong. That's something we really need to work really hard to address in a sustained way. I know Marinique ran a panel earlier this year and asked everyone who worked on these projects about what's the sustainability of your project, and that's always something everyone is worried about. And the Green Skills Programme, despite winning international and national awards, isn't running anymore. So that impact, how do you sustain it with legacy, is really important.
Excellent. I'm going to leave that one there for you all. The legacy and sustainability. Don't forget the experience of our students as well on their journey. Xavier Baker, Lubyna, and Colin, thank you very much. This I saw for the first time at Marinique's event a week or so, and I love the fact that, again, a community member, student, Bon Night, got Guy in there, and just been inspired by the talk that you've given. Julz, you've done some fantastic work to remember this. Learning in a different way, maybe not studying through the exams. You've come at the kind of different path, same path, excuse the pun, from positive action training in the housing, but you've been inspired now to just literally give up everything to want to do this. Why did you want to do that? What did that influence that Guy and the others, Joyce, who's here tonight, and Barbara will come to her shortly. What's that legacy for you?
Well, the legacy is very simple. We all stand on the shoulders of giants, and they're, for me, a none broader than Guy's. And that generation really demonstrated for us how by just stepping up, standing out, you can make change, not just a reality for you, but for generations to come. So I am one of those beneficiaries. Guy's known me before I was born. Him and my father came up together, very close cricket friends. Both very strong activists, wanted to see change, a reality in their own way. So when I say Guy's known me before I was born, he knew me when I was in my mother's belly. But I didn't know Guy's story, and I've known Guy's know me. He used to come on the bus. I lived out in Norwest, and the outer reaches, holding up the West Indian flag for that part of the city. But you would come with your bus and you'd take us over to the cricket club, or we'd go over to the cricket club. And I didn't know your story, but I knew you. And so learning your story has been a real, not just a privilege, but an inspiration. And, you know, I want to say this really bluntly. Bristol as a city does not own Guy in the way it should do. It doesn't own Paul Stevenson in the way it should do. It doesn't own the Bristol Bus Boycott in the way it should do. And I urge us as a city to get our together and own this unique story. Why? Because only one city in the world can say, when Rosa Parks sat down, Bristol stood up and marched. And on the day that we defeated the colour bar, Martin Luther King had a dream. Now you think that's amazing, right? Well, guess what? Because of what they did, we got the Race Relations Act, the first piece of anti-racist legislation, which made a significant difference to everybody's lives in this room, because that sits at the heart of the Equalities Act 2010 today. Well, you think that's great, right? But guess what? We took, you know, Joyce, Guy, and a whole bunch of other Bristol Bus Boycott pioneers, including the next generation of pioneers. We got Miles, we got Marionique, and many others. And Roger, you were there. Side by side, we took them up to Parliament. We wrapped a double-decker bus celebrating their story for the 60th anniversary. And I say this, you know, sort of poetically, we put Sir Keir Starmer, incumbent Prime Minister at the time, in a headlock. It was a nice headlock. But we secured a promise from him. And that promise is, if elected, they would introduce a Race Equality Act. Well, fast forward to Independence Day, July 4th, this year, they were elected. And fast forward to July 17th, Guy's birthday, in the King's speech, we got the commitment for a Race Equality Act. So here we are, the echoes of history, and just from the little bit of I'm inspired to be led by you, we can make change a reality.
Excellent. What next for you, Julz?
Wow.
And the Bristol Bus Boycott.
Yeah, the Bristol Bus Boycott. So the focus is something called Bristol Bus Boycott 360. There's 3 significant 60ths. Last year was the victory, which this work was part of. This year is about Paul Stevenson and his one-man sit-in of the Bay Horse Pub. I'll come to that in a moment. And the next year is the 60th anniversary of the Race Relations Act. So that gives us 360, but it's also broadening what is the Bristol Bus Boycott for so long. And I think this is absolutely right. We've had a clear focus. We've had a spear tip, you know, and it's cut through. But now we want to broaden who and what and why the Bristol Bus Boycott was and existed. And that's why we are celebrating people like Joyce Morris Wisdom, who is with us, and many other unsung heroes and sheroes of the bus boycott. So this year, in fact, on October the 25th, I'm inviting every single one of you in this room to join us at the Bay Horse Pub. Now you might think, well, why the Bay Horse Pub? Well, the Bay Horse actually is a significant civil rights movement location, not just in Bristol, but in the UK, because that is where Paul Stevenson, after the Bristol Bus Boycott was successful, literally on the 27th of April 1964, he did a one-man sit-in to what did they call it? The colour bar. Was still very much a living, live thing for us. So we defeated and had some recognition, but actually it was still a very much living thing, everyday reality for us. He went to that place. He was arrested because he refused to leave. There was a big court case, big national court case. Okay. They thought they got him, this little rabble-rouser. We got him. Yep, we got you by the collar. We're going to throw you in jail. We're going to show you up for the troublemaker you are. The only thing is they didn't count on the Irish witness, independent, that corroborated his case. He won his case. It was thrown out. The key to all of this is that the incumbent Prime Minister at the time, which was Harold Wilson, said, not on my watch. If we are elected, cue Keir Starmer, if we are elected, we will introduce a Race Relations Act. They were elected, and so we are looking to celebrate that moment with a sit-in.
Okay.
So we're inviting you all to come and not just join us for a sit-in, but we've created a new pint of beer called the Sit-In.
Give us the date again, because we need to... What date was that?
So that's October the 25th. So come and have a pint of a sit-in at the Bay Horse Pub on October the 25th. Loads of other stuff. We've got an outdoor citywide art gallery that we're also unveiling, which is using bus stops as a canvas for telling the story of the Bristol Bus Boycott too. Loads going on.
It's been wonderful watching you grow into this new role. As always, the baton gets passed on. A round of applause, please, for the CEO of Gardezi UnLtd, Julz Davis. Before we start to wrap up, I've just got a brief announcement. I'll be also using Black History Month to do a soca, which is Save Our Caribbean activities for elders. Those that work with me at UWE know that I spend some of my time working with 3 Caribbean lunch clubs, Malcolm X Elders, the Evergreens and Golden Ages, some of which have made it here today. Well, can you stand up, please? Where are we? And thanks to our live activities as well. I don't need to tell you about the cost of living and the cuts that have decimated our nation over the last years, as well as Steve mentioned earlier, affecting every facet of life. We've forgotten, I think, about this generation. It's given me so much in terms of my sense of identity and being. So it's our turn to give back. We need around about £12,000, but I'll be starting a fundraiser called SOCA. More details about that to follow. So, we're coming to the close of our event. We've got Miles Chambers, who will give our final tribute to close us out. But here to talk, we're celebrating Black History Month and celebrating our excellence. Please welcome Professor Emmanuel Adukwu, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much, Roger. My name is Emmanuel Adukwu. I'm a professor of applied microbiology and deputy head of school here at UWE. And one of the things that has been said earlier is that we're standing on the shoulders of giants. Dr. Bailey, I'm inspired by your story, and what we're about to do is really just talk about people's stories. So Roger asked me to speak about celebrating excellence. What I'm going to do is read some part of the foreword, which was written for our project, Celebrating Excellence, a couple of years ago. So we talked about Black History Month. And the question was, why is it important? Now, people of Black heritage have for centuries contributed immensely to knowledge and societal development. Many of these contributions have been hidden, lost, or ignored. As a result, this has impacted the experiences of Black heritage communities in professional spaces and in society. This has led to a lack of representation in the academy and in other professional environments, a lack of progression into senior roles, and a significant awarding gap, among other things. To change this, we need more action and less words. This collection brings to life the stories of excellence and the many ways Black heritage professionals here at UWE are shaping the future of their diverse fields and making their mark in society, shaping futures of what will be our collective history. Now, the reason why we've done this is that we have all of these challenges which have been highlighted this evening. We talk about discrimination, we talk about inequalities in society. We're talking about the stories of people like Dr. Guy Bailey. Who are we going to talk about in future? Who are the young people going to think about in future? One of the ways we need to do that is we need to start documenting their stories. So we started this project 2 years ago. So we had the first collection, and we had the second collection last year, and we're going to be working on a third collection. But on the 17th of October, we will feature some of those colleagues. So if you're free, 17th of October, we will be holding an event where you get to hear some of those stories, some of our professors, people like Professor Shaun here, and many others who are contributing immensely to the impact, to the society of Bristol, but also internationally. So one of the things I want everyone in this room to think about is that we need to honor those who have come before us, but we need to start paving the way for those who our children and our children's children will speak about in the future. And with that, I would welcome Miles Chambers, who will be delivering the last part for the event this evening. Thank you.
I've told you this story 1,001 times. It's been printed in books, shown on TV, made into poems, and all kinds of funny rhymes. I'm going to tell you again, because there's a specific point to my song. Not all is quite right, there's still plenty that's wrong. You see, down away where the nights are gay and the sun shines brightly on the mountaintop, a group of West Indians took a trip on a sailing ship, Windrush. And then they reached England, they made their stop. The British said, come to the mother country, there's plenty of jobs and opportunities here for you. I mean, there's plenty of vacancies, plenty of choices. There's really nothing that you cannot do. I mean, look at it like Dick Whittington coming to London to see the streets paved with gold. Who knows? Perhaps you become the mayor of London or Bristol, Marvin, if you can put up with the rain and the cold. We'll be bank managers and liars, doctors, people with letters after our name. We'll become rich and successful. And we'll let our family back home share our fame. But when my people arrived, they found the white English were playing a different game. They found this just wasn't the case. You see, there were plenty of jobs, but for those with the right coloured face. And how my people were treated was nothing short of an utter disgrace. We were restricted in many places from socialising, eating, living and working with whites in almost every capacity. And if I had got on a bus back then in Bristol, because I was black, no one would want to sit next to me. They answered, what do you expect? You're Negroes. Why should this come as a surprise? We don't want you to get on. You're not equal to us. We won't let you rise. They're different, see? They eat all kinds of weird food. They smells of curry powder. I'd say more, but I don't want to be rude. We know they makes up 3%. They're going to steal all our jobs. They devour all our food, stuffing their big black gobs. We're worried, see? We don't want our girls mixing with their men. They're violent and they love breeding and they only wash on Sunday mornings just after 10. They play lounge reggae music all through the night. And when they play dominoes, I think they're going to break out into a fight. This is our country! Think we let you come here and run amok? They're just not the same as us. Oh, and ask for a decent job. Tough luck. On the buses, Guy Bailey went for an interview as a conductor and got an awful surprise. We thought you were white, your telephone voice gives you an English disguise. I'm sorry, we have no jobs, there's just nothing here for you. If you want to settle for a cleaner, we'll see what we can do. Guy heard what they said in the back room there. We're waiting for Mr. Bailey, we spoke on the phone, his voice is English and white. We need that boy to clear the office. No trouble, please. We don't want to fight. We know this voice. It's articulate and intelligent like the white voices I hear daily. Guy cleared his throat, looked at her in his big, beautiful black face and said, I'm Mr. Guy Bailey. The shock and the pain of the interview day just wouldn't dissolve, just wouldn't go away. This isn't right. I'm a human being. I deserve an equal job with equal pay. Guy and Paul Stevens and the support of Tony Benn sat down and began to plot. And when they arose from the emancipation table, they arose with the Bristol Bus Boycott. The Bristol Bus Boycott was staged on the same days as Martin Luther King's in Alabama. They marched through the streets shouting for justice and racial equality in an articulate manner. On the same day, Martin marched for Rosa Parks to sit down and be black. Paul and Guy marched for Bristol not to keep truck drivers back. On the same day, Martin was met with violence from police dogs and ice water cannons to keep the crowd back. Paul and Guy marched with many demanding equality and suggesting a law to keep out the racist slack. When both marches finished, both had won a moral victory. The omnibus company threw in the town and said, I think we'll lift the colour bar on the buses in this city. Alabama White says, rules your packs, use a black woman, but you can sure sit down next to me. In America, Kennedy made the American civil rights movement a legal fact. And in Britain, Harold Wilson eventually created the Race Relations Act. Today, back in the 50s and 60s, racism was obviously all around. Had the 7-year-old drummers, one black and one white, grown up in an equal place? Or do we still, does one still have a life of opportunity and the other always have an injustice to chase? Can we really compete and live on equal terms? Is it safe to have afros, grow dreadlocks or wear curly perms? When we go for a job, is what we say and do that which comes first? Or do those with power still look at my blackness as if I've been cursed? Is Bristol, former slave city, fair and just and happy to accommodate me? So why, a few years back, did we have 4 districts in Bristol being campaigned by the BNP? Will a Cabot Circus expansion eat my community away? And won't there be anywhere left for black kids to play? When you go out, the doormen are black and are white. And it's only recently we're allowed to drive taxis for the day and the night. But thanks to all those in Bristol who stood up for the right thing. Thanks to the first black drivers, the late Mr. Norman Samuels and the late Ragbear Singh. But the Marlon Thomases still suffer, and the Stephen Lawrences still continue to die. Today, do you still judge me by the colour of my skin? If you do, tell me why. Why? Why? Now you've heard this story for the 1002nd time. What are you going to do? And as for you, my people, you've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. You didn't land on the rocks of Bristol. The rocks of Bristol landed on you.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we end our night. Something to take away. We've heard from our academics, we've heard from our leaders, we've heard from our students, we've heard of past students and seen their work and community members as well. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for the BDAS team, our wonderful technical staff. Again, giving up your night as well. It's as simple, really, as ABC in terms of what we need to do. You've heard the activism from Julz, the bus boycott and its influence in that community learning. What are we going to do, in the words of Miles Chambers' poem? But most of all, please, a final round of applause for our honour tonight for Mr. Dr. Guy Bailey. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to our pioneers, and I'll see you outside for a drink all night. I'm sorry.
I experienced exactly the same Guy. Only my interview was in the morning, so I went as scheduled the time. And as the workers, I was there early before the workers came in. I sat there and got some stairs and so on. And someone came to me when everybody settled into their work. Someone came to me and said, there's no job. There's no vacancy for you. Mind you, I was told to come there for an interview. So exactly how you had it, I experienced it.
Where was that, ma'am?
That's in London. It was
hospital?
No, not yet the hospital. I turned to the hospital. I was needed best at the hospital, but this was just simple seamstress work, machine work, doing sewing and so on. That was the first interview I went to. Another thing I want to mention: hurry up with that history book. And it must include everywhere it was mentioned. South Africa, Ian Smith, never in his lifetime or ever, there would ever be a black president in South Africa. And we had it in Mrs. Parks. Everything must be included in this history book. Hurry up with that. Oh, one thing I have to mention is, I came from Guyana, now Guyana. British Guyana. And I am coming here, I was surprised to see the history was failing in England here. We were taught the way of life of the English We had the British Council coming down to our schools, giving us maps of all the after post-war activities, Queen, the weddings, funerals, the King George V, telling you my age now, and then the Queen at her wedding in detail, everything, and how we were told and kept up to date with British history. Why couldn't it be the same? We would not be having this today if British were taught about the history of the world and the colonies they occupied. We wouldn't be in this today. That's all I want to say, those things.
That's my mum. I've never heard that story. Steve, sign her up. Our new lecturer. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mother.